Welcome, survivors and thrivers. I'm so excited that you're here with me today. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you on how you can unravel the web of narcissistic abuse in your life and break free. Unraveling the web of any abuse can be very daunting because when we're in a situation, we don't always see everything clearly because we're right in it and we've become comfortable in it. And when you become comfortable in abuse, if you haven't already watched my video on you are addicted to abuse, I encourage you to go watch that. But you are in these situations and you become comfortable. They become normal to you. And there's a saying that goes something like this: normal is the environment in which you grew up, or normal is the environment in which you live in now. Normal is what you come to know. That is your normal. And if your normal is abuse, then you're comfortable there and you don't always see everything clearly. And the number one way I feel like you can start to pinpoint the patterns of abuse is by journaling. When you begin to journal your feelings and how you just different situations and how you react in those situations, what happened in that situation, everything that went into that situation, you start to uncover patterns. And when you start to uncover those patterns, you can see, okay, this is going on, what do I need to do about this in particular? And in my own process of untangling my web of abuse, I began to, first of all, document things that were happening, but I had a point of reference. And what I mean by that is I didn't really know at that point that I was dealing with narcissistic abuse. I knew that it was emotional abuse, but I didn't know it was a narcissistic abuse. I didn't know that the spirit of Jezebel was behind it. I didn't know that that there was an agenda of evil. But I did know that there was a level of abuse, emotional abuse, and spiritual abuse as well. And so I found this article on Focus on the Family, and in it describes some characteristics of abuse. And the first one is discounting, distorting, and negating. So discounting your feelings, discounting when you have a concern, when you want to talk about something. A narcissist Jezebel will discount it. They will put it off like it's no big deal. You're making too big of a deal out of this situation. And they minimize it so that we can just move on, because we're not going to dwell here, because I can't dwell here because I will get caught. So they discount, distort the facts, and they negate. They are accusing and blaming. They engage in accusatory and blaming behavior. And if you know anything about a narcissist Jezebel, is that they will blame everyone and everything, but they will never take a look in the mirror at themselves. So this was a big aha moment for me. They isolate. This isolation is, if you will go, and I will put a link in the description on the place in the Bible where it talks about the effects Jezebel had on Elijah. And when this spirit attacks, one of the first things you want to do is run and isolate. run from the situation and then isolate yourself from further hurt. Isolate yourself from whatever this is that's attacking you, this person. Another characteristic of abuse is withholding affection and emotional support. In my own life, this was a major tool of abuse, the withholding affection and emotional support. Oh, I could go on with that, and maybe I will. See, one of my promises that I made to myself when doing this video is, when doing these videos is not about ripping down the narcissist Jezebel in my life. It's not about painting them in this horrible light. This is what they did. This is, this is the abuse that I suffered at their hands. You see what they did. I don't want to do that. That's what they do. I'm merely wanting to share with you some of these patterns so that you can see some of these characteristics, so you can see, okay, this is happening to me, and what can I do? I want to bring you to a place of empowerment. One of the main goals of this channel is to bring people from surviving victimhood to thriving to victory. There's a difference between victimhood and being a victor. And when you are constantly focused on the negative, on what that person did to you, you're not a victor. You're not a thriver. You want to become a thriver. So you want to be empowered by the information. You want to be able to say, okay, these are the cold hard facts. This is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm going through. Am I going to stay here, or am I going to do something to get out of it? That's the key. You don't want to stay there. So withholding affection. I will share this one story. In my life, there was a situation where I was being blamed. And it was it was an ongoing situation. It had to do with our finances, and the blame was being put on me. And because I wouldn't do what the narcissist Jezebel wanted me to do, he withheld affection from me, and on purpose. Okay, and we're going to talk about passive aggressive cycles, and that is a huge red flag when someone is behaving in passive aggressive behaviors. But he would withhold affection from me. That was his way of punishing me. If I didn't do what he wanted to do, he was aggressive in the sense that, okay, this is how I'm going to hurt her. I'm going to withhold affection from her. I'm going to withhold intimacy from her. And that was one of his tools in his tool bag. That was a way that he could keep me trapped in abuse. Another characteristic of abuse is withholding financial resources. So if they are lying about the finances, very dishonest about finances, as a way to really control the situation. Controlling with the finances will only give you so much, things like that. That is a form of abuse. Dismissive, disapproving, or contemptuous looks, comments, or behaviors. Again, so you come with a concern and you're being dismissed. Your feelings don't matter. You don't matter. What's hurting you doesn't matter. The whole purpose of a narcissist Jezebel is to devalue you. They're bringing you to a place of control, and who better to control than somebody that has no value, that feels like they have no value? Because if you feel like you have no value, you're going to believe what they say. You're going to do what they want you to do. You become a puppet. Another characteristic of emotional abuse is threatening harm or intimidating behavior that seeks to threaten. Okay, so this is either, when you intimidate someone, in my situation, my narcissist Jezebel was a very large man. Okay, he is a very muscular, very large man. And so when he would, he didn't have anything else to stand on, so then he would come at me with his size. This was a way he could intimidate, to back the other person down. Using fear, using his size to intimidate me out of the conversation. Okay, we're going to move on. I've been backed into a corner. Now I'm going to use this tactic to get you to go away, to stop confronting me with truth, because I don't like that. I need to use my size. You need to leave. And then lastly, and we already talked about this a little bit, passive forms of aggression. Passive aggression is so dangerous because it's also tied in with gaslighting, and we're going to talk about that in another video. But passive aggression is so harmful because you don't always know that that person is doing that. And you have this sense like, did they really mean that way? But when you start to untangle the web of abuse, you start to see, oh my goodness, they really did mean it that way. They really are doing that to hurt me, but it's not out in the open. It's underneath the surface. And this is why people that deal with narcissistic abuse, in not the covert kind, but the overt kind, they find it difficult to come out to their community because this person presents themselves in such a positive light to everybody else, but they don't see what's going on underneath the surface, and it's very difficult to prove to the person that's being abused, because it's all underneath the surface. And they're like, people will be like, well, what did he do? Or what did she do? And you tell them what you think is going on, and it's like, I just don't see that. Or there's a whole slew of things that you'll hear. So that was the first thing that was my grounding point to begin to uncover. Okay, these are the characteristics of abuse. Okay, am I experiencing some of these things? Are some of these things going on? And in my situation, yes, they were. And then I was like, okay, I don't know how I got here, but I started to uncover different relationships and even in my childhood and how I was raised. And I made a table, and I encourage you to do this. And I put, person A in one column, and then I put person B in the second column. And then I would say, okay, I have a thought or opinion and a viewpoint I want to share. And then I would put in column A, person A, okay, when I had a thought or opinion or viewpoint that I wanted to share, this is what person A would do, okay? And this is what person B would do. And it was astonishing how similar they were. Just to share with you, okay, so person A. So if I had a thought or opinion or a viewpoint that I wanted to share, okay, if that thought, opinion, or viewpoint did not line up with person A or person B, okay, so person A, I was verbally cut down. My thoughts and opinions do not matter, and I was punished through verbal abuse, okay? Cut downs, major cut downs, okay? Person B. This person would, so if I had a thought or opinion or viewpoint I wanted to share, person B, make gestures and facial expressions and negative comments expressing to me that my thoughts and feelings do not matter. Okay, so that's that dismissive. So when you have a thought, opinion, or viewpoint that does not agree, instead of healthy communication, which I'm going to have, I can't wait for this video because it is so important, good communication, but instead of having a healthy dialogue about, the viewpoint, you can have, a person should be able to communicate their viewpoint without these behaviors, okay? Okay, point 2. I try to speak up, but I'm constantly shut up and shut down, okay? So person A, I try and speak up. I'm like, okay, I have this viewpoint, and then I try and speak up, okay? Person A, shame me, and yell at me with cutting words and actions, and we already talked about that. Person B, okay, so if I speak up, that's a no-no, so I'm going to be punished, right? Do things to get back at me so that I will suffer harm and cause pain to me as my punishment for speaking up, okay? So what would happen, okay, if this happened, person A and person B, these are total similarities, okay? So this person A is childhood. And in my childhood, this is what that would cause me to do, okay? So person A, all right, I wasn't allowed to have my own opinion. I wasn't allowed to have my own viewpoint that was contradictory to person A's viewpoint. So what would that cause me to do? That would cause me to retreat into my own world, to shut my mouth, because I'm not allowed to have an opinion of my own. Shut my mouth, because I'm not allowed to speak, and retreat into my own world. So remember how I talked about the Jezebel the effects of that spirit. When you are bitten by this spirit, when you are in a relationship with someone with this spirit, it's going to cause you to isolate. Okay, so what I would do is I would go to my room. I spent hours upon hours upon hours alone in my bedroom because my bedroom was my safe place. I would escape. Okay, so it causes you to run. I couldn't go anywhere other than my bedroom. I would go to friends and things like that when I could, but that was my safe place. That was where I had personal identity, and that's where I had some sort of worth. Okay, so in my childhood, person A, this is what I would do. I would retreat into my bedroom, all right? Person B, so I'm in this relationship, and I only think that I've been in one relationship where the person wasn't a narc, Jez. But I don't know for sure because I was too young to really, and it was such a long time ago, it would be hard for me to see if that person was, but I don't think so. They were a rather healthy person, but my point is that these similarities exist in all of the relationships I had been in because of person A, because I lived in the normal, okay, of abuse. That was my normal of abuse, all right? I'm going to apply that normal now. I'm going to accept and go into these relationships and accept them as they are because I'm comfortable in abuse. It feels normal. So when you begin to untangle abuse and untangle, this is not okay. These abusive patterns and behaviors, they are not okay. And you begin to untangle that web of abuse, in your heart, in your life, in your spirit, and you begin to pull back from that, okay, it is a very hard process because it is ingrained in you, and chances are coming from childhood. So let's talk really quick. I'm going to wrap this up. So person B, okay, this was my marriage. I was married for, by the time we were divorced, I was married for 17 years, and I was with that person 2 years prior to being married. So I was with this person for 19 years. I was very comfortable in abuse, and there were times of positive times and negative times, but many years of negative times. I have stacks of journals. Okay, so person B. If, the things that were happening with person B, okay, what did it cause me to do in that relationship? It was the exact same thing. I retreated into my own safe space. By the end of our marriage, this wasn't in the beginning, but by the end of our marriage, I withdrew myself from our bedroom, and I created a separate bedroom just for me, just like I did in childhood. It was like this was my last survival mechanism, or maybe it was a lifeline. I don't know, but I withdrew into this space, and I started spending a lot more time just with myself. I didn't want to be around this person B, my narc Jez, and these were the effects of the abuse. It wasn't until that I discovered this. This is the journal right here, and see, here's the table. It was just a simple table, and when I did that, I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that I'm doing the same thing. And these are the same abusive patterns. They might be packaged a little differently, but the same abusive patterns that I lived with as a child, I'm living with now, and I'm comfortable in it. And so I'm telling you all this to say, to circle back around from the beginning, you are comfortable with what you grew up in. You become comfortable in abuse. You become addicted to abuse. And until you begin to unravel the web of abuse, you're going to stay stuck. And so I encourage you to do something like this, okay? Some form of table, and it's so empowering because you start to give yourself the tools. You're starting to, lift the fog. Because when you're in these relationships, there is such a fog. You're just living in this gray area, and you become so lifeless. You see these memes of when a narc Jez, and they're just these lifeless characters that you become when you're with them. They suck all the life out of you. And I'm here to tell you that's not okay. And it's not normal. And you can break free from these relationships. You can break free from the web. And you can empower yourself. You can heal. And you can ensure that you will not be entrapped. You'll know the signs and the red flags to look for. So I leave you with the encouragement that make your journal, make your table, and I pray that you will be set free from narcissistic abuse. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you come and sit with me in another video, and I can't wait to hear your personal testimony of you on the other side. From survivors to thrivers. If I can do it, you can do it. I bless you in Jesus' name.